Hey everybody, it's Veronica. This week we'll be talking about attachment styles. Attachment styles is something that a lot of us need to learn about so that we know how to relate to one another, so that we can build better relationships with people that we actually love. You know what I mean? We want to be able to learn how to make other people feel comfortable around us. From your infancy, your relationships with your parents. I keep I keep reiterating this relationship with your parents thing because that's the root of the trauma that we all have. It's all about childhood and our relationships with our parents. So you will catch me saying that a lot, like your relationship with your parents and the way they nurtured you and care for you sets the tone for your relationships in your adulthood. The patterns of attachment that you learn from your caregiver is how you show up in your adult relationships, and this is how you learn to relate to others on an emotional level. And by learning and recognizing your attachment styles, you can strengthen your relationships with others as an adult. So our first attachment style is secure attachment. Secure attachment is the goal. Now, I'm going to get in detail about the other insecure attachments, but secure attachment is definitely the goal. We all want to be the secure attachment because it's just a healthier way to be able to let your relationships flourish when you are secure within yourself. People with secure attachment styles, I'm going to read from my notes. People with secure attachment styles grew up in a household environment that allowed them to express their emotions freely, and their parents allowed them to explore themselves. They allowed them to practice full autonomy. Also, the parent had no problem with, they met the child's needs in a healthy manner. Also, the child became comfortable with intimacy because the parent set that example for them to be able to create intimacy between the parent and the child. So the parent, basically, someone with a secure attachment had parents or a parent that allowed them to be intimate with them in a healthy way. And it allowed the child to be comfortable with intimacy so that when they became an adult, someone with a secure attachment style has no problem with forming healthy relationships with others because they're confident in themselves. And they're confident with their partners, they're confident with their relationships with others, and they find it easy to form emotional bonds with others. They're secure whether they're in a relationship or outside a relationship. So whether you're in their life or not, they're secure in themselves, regardless of whether anyone is there or not. They are confident enough to live life, they're confident enough to they're secure enough to basically continue living their lives without other people. They don't need people's validation to live. You know what I mean? They don't need people's validation to be themselves. They're able to depend on others, and they allow themselves to be able to depend for others to depend on them. So, like I said, with people with secure attachment style, they know how to set healthy boundaries. They know how to maintain healthy relationships with others. They know how to relate with other people. They know what it means to have someone depend on them and vice versa. They understand what healthy intimacy is. They understand that life goes on without other people. You know, they don't need no one's validation. That's the secure attachment style. That's what we all want to be in our self-love journey. That is where we all want to strive to be, because that is how we can basically develop healthy relationships with people and maintain them long term. You want to be able to maintain long term healthy relationships with people. You want to be able to connect with people and be emotionally fulfilled with other people. Is our dismissive avoidant. So people with dismissive avoidant attachment styles usually had a parent that was inconsistent with parenting, to the point where they may have been dismissive of the child's emotional needs. I know a lot of people with dismissive avoidant attachment styles that had parents that told them to basically not cry. Like, this is people, I'm just going to explain this. In the community, there are women who have sons, and they teach their sons not to cry. You're a big boy, you don't need to cry. Big boys don't cry. You're a boy, don't cry. Boys don't show emotion. Usually these boys grow up into men. They grow up and become men who don't know how to express themselves in a healthy manner. Hopefully we can break the cycle on that. But again, like I said, people with dismissive avoidant attachment styles basically had parents that let them raise themselves. Like, the parent wasn't really the parent. The parent was just there. They probably provided financially, and they gave food and shelter, but that's basic stuff. They didn't really emotionally connect with the child, and they didn't really form any type of bond with the child. So this child grows up to be an adult that has a hard time getting intimate with people, and they actually get really uncomfortable. Intimate relationships for dismissive avoidant people makes them very uncomfortable, and that's why they distance themselves from people once they feel that happening, because they're not used to it. They think it's something, I'm not going to say it's something wrong with it, but it does. They don't never think that their needs will ever be met, so they don't actually put effort into maintaining relationships with people. They do want love, so let's not mistake that they don't want love. Let's not get it mistaken that they don't want love, or that they don't want to emotionally connect with others. It's just that they have a hard time doing that, because all their childhood, all their life, they didn't have that privilege of having a parent that was emotionally available for them. So when they get older, it's harder for them to be emotionally available for others. So fearful avoidant attachment styles usually had a childhood where the parent was extremely abusive. And from a child's perspective, this is the person that's taking care of you. This is the person that you seek refuge in, and this is the person you do get your emotional needs met from, that's abusing you. So it's very confusing as far as, do they care for me? Do they not care for me? These kids had to disconnect during the trauma as well. They had to disconnect from themselves a bit so that they could survive as a survival mechanism to basically deal with the trauma that they've been given from the parents, because again, the parent is the abuser and the provider. So you get what I'm saying? It's definitely a lot to deal with. And these people, they grow up and get into relationships whereas though they just have a hard time trusting people. They have a hard time trusting that people really love them or that people really care for them. And also, they do have a hard time maintaining relationships because they're so fearful that someone is going to take advantage of them or someone is going to abandon them like their parents did. Usually people with fearful avoidant, they can be clingy. They can be clingy 1 minute, then they can be distant the next. So it's like a mix between dismissive avoidant and anxious preoccupied. I'm going to get into that next, but It's a switch between being dismissive. It's a switch between being emotional and not being emotional. You know, soon as they get triggered, soon as something triggers that memory or the trauma that they've been through, as far as the abandonment issues that they have with their parents, it triggers that within them. So they feel like they have to protect themselves and remove themselves from the situation so that they don't get hurt. And a lot of times people with fearful avoidant attachment styles, they don't even know that they're doing this. It's a subconscious thing. Most of the time when they feel like the relationship could be all great, but a lot of times these people, they hurt you before you hurt them. That's just how it is with them. It's been a lot. They've been through so much that before you hurt them, they'll hurt you first. So just keep that in mind when you're dating someone with fearful avoidant attachment style. Also, if you are someone with fearful avoidant attachment style, you need to figure out you need to figure out those triggers. You need to address that within yourself, as far as why do you feel like you don't deserve love, or why do you feel like someone is going to abandon you? You know, you have to really get it through your head that everybody is not out to get you. And I understand that you have been through some stuff, but everybody is not out to get you. I know me personally, I do have fearful avoidant. I've been through a lot, but you know, it doesn't stop me from loving people, and it doesn't stop me from accepting love from people. I had to work through that myself, but it never stopped me from literally accepting love from people once I realized that I had to work on that within myself. Because it's not really it comes from a place of insecurity and self-doubt. It comes from that. It doesn't come from, you know, it's a survival mechanism to make sure that you don't get hurt before someone hurts you. So if you do have that attachment style, try to do something to work. Next is our anxious preoccupied. Now this one is in relation to the video that I did with toxic relationships. These are the people who grew up in a household where as though they had to fight for their parents' attention, or the parent was not really consistent with nurturing. The parent made them feel insecure. The parent made them feel very small. The parent made the child feel like they had to fight for their attention. So the child feels insecure. Like I said, the child feels insecure as a result. And to make up for that, they had to fight for their parents' attention. They had to act out for their parents' attention. These people grow up doing the same thing. You know what I mean? They try to overcompensate for their insecurities, and they try to use people to fill this void within them. So when they do get into relationships, it's like they overstep boundaries emotionally. I'm not gonna say emotion. They overstep boundaries a lot, and they can't figure out why people run from them all the time. But it's because you are overstepping boundaries. You have to figure out how to feel more secure within yourself. It comes from a lack of self-esteem. But again, in your childhood, you had a parent that basically made you feel like you were less than. And I get it, but you know, when you grow up, if you do have that type of attachment style, you have to really be careful, because in all honesty, it's you who's sabotaging a relationship because you don't feel like you're worthy of it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter how much love that person gives you, you're still going to, like, people with anxious, preoccupied attachment styles, it doesn't matter how much love you give them, they always think that you're going to leave them. They always think that they don't deserve love. They always think that they have to fight for it, or they have to go out of their way for it. And that's not really the case. You know, you just got to work on your insecurities. Let me just be honest. You just have to work on your insecurities. So I hope this was a very helpful video for you guys. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And that's that.